Going into changing between TikTok and YouTube, but bear with me. It's a whole process. Okay. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better at it. But as you're coming in, please, thank you, Jody. Welcome. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and do this. Go to live. Let's change this up to monetization on, and we are good. All right, now I got to go to my YouTube live stream. This is chaotic, y'all. This is chaotic. Okay, go to your channel. So, guys, as you're coming in, we're gonna be talking about immigration. Oh, hold on, I got something coming through. There we go. We're gonna be talking about immigration. We're gonna be talking about some of what Donald Trump is doing with his authoritarian takeover, and we're gonna talk about some other random topics and a really fun one when we get to the economy side of things. All right. With all that said, I think we are ready to go. YouTube, as you guys are coming in, Spartacus, listen, guys, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, drop me a follow. If you're on TikTok, you should know what to be doing. You have to hit that heart button. Keep clicking the tap button, okay? Tap, 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 tap. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate you doing that. All right, let's jump straight into it. Let me get my solo web source up here. So the first thing is, first, I'm the realist. No, I'm kidding, but I am pretty real. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Pam Bondi hearing. I know you're probably wondering, we talked about that on Wednesday. Why are we talking about that today? Well, the answer is very simple, okay? The reason why is because Pam Bondi got called out for having pictures of Congress members' search histories to do Oppo research. Now, I remember a time when Republicans absolutely despised the Patriot Act, but yet here it is, Pam Bondi, and I kind of thought about this. As you're perusing this site, you kind of get the feeling, right, that someone's watching you, right? And that kind of played out here with the Pam Bondi search history. So we have Raskin, who was part of that committee, saying it is a violation of the separation of powers for them to essentially be monitoring our computer searches on the files. It's outrageous, Orwellian, and we're going to have more to say about it soon. And then reporters said, was Jayapal the only person? And Raskin said, we have reason to believe that it was happening to everyone, meaning the DOJ was monitoring everyone in that. Now, what's not quite clear is whether or not that means that they have been researching monitoring people's search histories outside of Congress. We don't know quite that yet, but what it does appear is that when Congress members are going in and trying to view the redacted files, they're monitoring their search history. That's pretty problematic. And the image, for anybody who's unaware, Brian Tyler Cohen went into this, and Jamie Dupree said Attorney General Pam Bondi had printouts at today's hearing on what lawmakers have been looking at when they search unredacted files at the Justice Department. This shows Jayapal search history for representative, and it's a screenshot of everything she looked at. And Brian Tyler Cohen put it out perfectly, absolutely perfectly, okay? He said Pam Bondi's DOJ has the resources to track each individual member of Congress searching the files, but not the resources to properly unredact or even release all of the files. That's a damn good point, right? Which is they have all of this time, all of this effort to go through and monitor Congress members' search history, but they can't even do the service to these victims to then put in place these things. So pretty crazy. Brandon, what's going on? Spartacus, what's going on in the YouTube chat? Guys, as you're coming in, we're at 360 taps. Come on, tap, 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 tap. What are y'all doing on TikTok? Let's go. Tap away. We should get to let's try to aim for 5K. 5K within, 30 minutes. I think that's reasonable. We got 9 people coming here. Please hit that tap button if you're enjoying the content. YouTube, guys, if you're not hitting the like button, what are you even doing? All right, let's go to the next story here. Now we have Mike Johnson on the Pam Bondi hearing. He said they turned it into a certain. Now I want you to listen to this. This is great. This is peak comedy by Mike Johnson, and I swear he does this on purpose. He has to be doing this on purpose. They turned it into a circus. These are unserious people, and they demonstrate that with their antics, which has turned into theatrics. Now, we'll see why this is ironic here in a few minutes when we get into the Mike or Matt Ellison hearing from the State Attorney General of Minnesota. We'll get into that briefly. So you'll see why this is deeply, deeply ironic, okay? Let's keep going. So The next thing we have is Trump defending Pam Bondi. Now, this is lengthy, so bear with me. I'm going to read this real quick to you guys. To whatever. What's going on? Turn text to speech on for the likes. Turn text to speech on. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, to whatever, but certainly that could be something we can try to look into. All right. AG Pam Bondi under intense fire from the Trump deranged. Now, I want you to listen to this and remember that last year we saw where the Republicans and the right were screaming about tone down the rhetoric, and they were doxing people and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, right? That was their MO. And we have seen nothing but the opposite coming from their own party, namely Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying, under intense fire from the Trump deranged radical left lunatics, was fantastic at yesterday's hearing on the never-ending saga of fill in the blank, JE, where the one thing that has been proven conclusively, much to their chagrin, was that President Donald J. Trump has been 100% exonerated of their ridiculous Russia type charges. Again, no one's ever levied charges against Donald Trump, but yet he seems to think that he's been exonerated somehow about this. But the more that comes out, the more that we find that this is actually occurring. Brian said, who's doxing left? People that were on the right after the Charlie Kirk incident. After that happened, numerous people on the left who were just simply criticizing and maybe some of Charlie Kirk's viewpoints were getting doxxed on those and actually being fired for some of their takes as well. So much for the First Amendment, right? So anyways, actually, it is the slimeball Democrats, many of them big donors and politicians that have been proven guilty. Republican loser, sanctimonious rhino Congressman Thomas Massie. Trump didn't like the fact that Thomas Massie pushed back on Pam Bondi, or that Thomas Massie put forth a bill that Donald Trump was forced to sign. T. Lotmore said that Trump is very sick. Yeah, I would agree. So he's probably suffering from some kind of cognitive decline, right? Made a total fool of himself yesterday, fighting aimlessly against a hopeless agenda of hate and stupidity, as most clearly stated by his crashing job approval numbers. Donald Trump talking about job approval numbers. Just think about that. Okay, by the way, there was a recent poll that came out from Rasmussen that showed that Donald Trump is far less popular than Joe Biden. And if people could go back, they would. This was Rasmussen. For anybody who's unaware of what Rasmussen is a right-wing pollster. They almost always err on the side of the Republicans. Oh, the people who praise. No, that's not what happened, Brian. Okay, there was numerous instances in which people were just critical of Charlie Kirk after the incident, and the right lost their ever-loving mind. And I remember sitting there, and you want to talk about praising. Listen, I'm not saying that I would do that, but I think it is quite crazy to me that people would sit there and talk about their First Amendment rights, and then they don't want to let people say what they want to say. They get very emotional about that. But then the moment that Donald Trump sits there and talks about the people like Renee Good or Alex Peretti, or talks about the radical left lunatics, which we're not done with quite yet, you guys sit there and cheer them on. That's the craziness of this entire thing, right? There is no standard on the Republican Party. There's no principle in the Republican Party at the moment, or at least in the MAGA Party. I'll put it that way. There are some Republicans that have some principles. Look at namely Thomas Massie as a great example of this. Some Republicans have voted against Donald Trump, so I'm aware that there are some Republicans, but a vast majority of those who support MAGA tend to not really have very many principles as it is. What did we... poverty, what is it? How did the painter take an economy of, I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so anyways, we'll move on from the Trump thing. Basically, the point is that Trump was losing his ever-loving mind because of the fact that they were calling out Pam Bondi for what she was. So going on to the next one here. Trump was called out about this because it was revealed that Howard Lutnick had visited the island, and namely he brought over all of his children and some of his friends' children, and he just said, I was just there to dine. And Donald Trump, in Trump fashion, he was asked, were you aware that Lutnick visited the island? He said, I wasn't, which he always isn't, by the way. This is a classical Donald Trump line. He says, I wasn't aware of it, okay? But he said, from what I hear, he was there with his wife and children. I was never there. Well, no one asked if you were there, so thank you for inserting something that nobody asked about. Oh, yeah, he lost his ever-loving mind. He really did, Brian. And we'll see that play out here in a few minutes. But I've got more True Social posts. Trust me, it's coming. Dude is spouting the same things the left said this last election and then is surprised when they lose. I'm not surprised that they lost. I actually was expecting that to some degree. Some of my videos, obviously, I was very supportive of the Democratic Party, but I acknowledged it was a very close race. I'm not surprised that they lost, but I don't think they lost for the reason you think they lost. You think they lost because of a particular issue that is close to your heart. But I believe that they lost because of simply one thing, the economy. 99% of people are going to vote on their wallets. And this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump's job approval ratings are so astronomically low, because he has a terrible handling on this economy. So let's keep moving here. And it was funny because the Dow Jones ended up dropping below 50,000 points, which Pam Bondi was bragging about during the hearings. And as soon as she got done bragging about it, she said, I won't talk about it until the Dow goes below 50,000 points. Well, it went below 50,000 points. Then we had immigration. So we're going to move into immigration a little bit here. You know, I was on vacation, since you know everything. Brian, I didn't know that you were Howard Lutnick. I don't know what you're talking about there. We understand you people have to comfort yourselves somehow, but with blatant. Okay, how am I comforting myself? Everything I am stating, by the way, right now is backed by facts. Nothing I am saying is backed by any kind of emotion. Granted, I have a certain way of projecting my speech, and that is certainly what can happen. But again, if you want to come into the chat and you want to argue with me about it, you're more than welcome to. Nothing I'm saying is unfactual. Nothing, quite frankly. There's a little bit of opinion spiced into that, naturally speaking. I'm a political commentator. I have that. I think they lose because they are out of touch from the average person. Oh, wait 1 second. I think they are out of touch from the average person, clearly shown by demographics. I don't think that, well, let's put it this way. The Democrats are out of touch from their base. I will concede that. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, when we had Chuck Schumer go out and say, right, he wasn't going to vote on this budget bill, he ended up voting on that budget bill anyways, like the day after. This is one of the reasons why this is why the Republicans tout this Democratic approval and saying, oh, well, the Democratic approval is so low. It's because our own base is upset with Chuck Schumer and the leadership. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. All right. Democrats talk about full-blown. Oh, Brian saying Democrats have gone full-blown socialist, fascist socialist. Who's coming up here? Chill Guy? Let's talk with Chill Guy here. What do we got? Hey, Chill Guy. What's going on, buddy? You got a little bit of an echo. Hey, man, did you vote for Donald Trump?
Mic check, mic check. How do I sound?
You sound good. Here, do that one more time for me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So did you vote for Donald Trump?
Made for radio. Yes, bro. Are you kidding me? It's a silly question.
All right.
Come on, man.
Why did you vote for Donald Trump? Let me ask you this. I know I'm going to skip past it because a lot of people ask, why did you vote for Donald Trump? I think we're kind of past that at this point. Let me ask you, what do you think about the job that Donald Trump has done, and what particular aspects are you thrilled by?
I really like what he's done with the border. I like the big, beautiful bill. I like all the analytics coming out of his administration, which empirically prove that he's doing a good job. And I like his foreign policy. I like that he's a strong leader. I like that he's transparent. I mean, you could pick any one of those.
So which statistics specifically are you referring to that you think that Donald Trump is doing a great job at?
Well, yesterday they came out with the jobs report, which was higher than projected, 130,000 jobs added. Mm-hmm. And then also inflation is cooling from 2.5 to 2.4.
Yes. So yesterday. Have you looked into those numbers? And what I mean by that is that it has come down. Correct. It's come down from 2.5 to 2.4. And listen, I'm not going to say that I want inflation to come down just like everybody else. Okay. But I think there's a couple of things to factor into this. One, inflation is still going up, right? It's still going up. It's not negative. It's not, and the rate at which inflation is going up or going down, right? The other thing about the jobs report that I think is super important to talk about is look at the areas in which the jobs report is happening. You talked about statistics. And let me ask you this. Did you think that Donald Trump was going to bring back manufacturing jobs? Because if you look at the jobs report, manufacturing jobs have steadily decreased. And in that jobs report, they talked about an 800,000 revision downward in 2025. Did you hear about that?
Things haven't been fairly like uh, uh, they haven't been like fairly correct. So I mean, may or may be they might go up, they might go down, but so far it's gone down. But you also said that, and in the specific sectors such as manufacturing, the jobs are coming because much investment and honestly, tariffs and everything that Trump's doing is fairly new. So I mean, you're going to have to give that a couple years for those jobs to take off. But I mean, any jobs is good jobs, especially when Democrats heavily lean on like government hiring to like boost their job numbers. And then second thing you said that the inflation is up. What do you? It's down,
Yeah.
like literally.
Well, let
It's
me
going
explain.
down. What do you mean
Hold
it's
on.
going up?
So let me explain this. So first of all, you said that Democrats lean heavily on government jobs, but if you look at the jobs reports from last year, especially towards the end of last year, you will see that actually the two areas where we saw the most growth, only really areas that we saw the growth, was healthcare and government jobs. Trump has leaned in on government jobs. He might be like, wait, I thought he cut government jobs. No, if you go and look at the last few job reports, I'd encourage you to go do so. You'll see that government jobs actually ended up carrying the weight of those job increases. And further, when I'm talking about going up, is that the rate of inflation, if you look at what it's actually saying in the CPI report, let's say home goods, right? Or food at home, it was say 0.3%. That's the rate at which it is increasing. If it were decreasing, right? If it was a deflation, then we would see a negative number. And we see that in some categories. But that's why I'm saying is that we're not, even though the rate of inflation is going down, we're not seeing deflationary prices. And I think that's something that people need to take into consideration is that a lot of companies right now are kind of holding back. This is why we've seen the stock market kind of act weird because of Trump's tariffs. They have been kind of eating the loss in a lot of ways. What we're going to see is that right now the Supreme Court hasn't ruled on it. If the Supreme Court overturns these tariffs, then great, the economy is going to boom. But not because of necessarily Donald Trump, because of the Supreme Court. If they keep Trump's tariffs in place, which is a possibility, then we can see where those prices can go up. Because now they're like, well, hey, we're not going to be able to get rid of these tariffs. We're going to have to start increasing our prices. So I think there's some element of that playing in effect. But I know it's a long-winded answer, so I'll give you some room to breathe on and chew on that one. But yeah.
I don't. No. It's fine. It's a good answer. It's a good answer. As far as inflation is measured off like a basket of goods, right? Even though the cost of certain things may go up, the cost of other things are also going down. And as far as like tariffs, we absolutely do. That's not going to be. I mean, hopefully not overturned by the Supreme Court. That would just be silly because the president definitely has that power, and what he mostly uses that power for. Not only is that bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff revenue, but it's also creates what he uses them for is leverage to get what we want from other countries, better trade deals, which you've seen him get with China. You've seen him with a few other countries who he's the UE, UK, and a few different countries in which he's negotiated a better trade deal for the American people on imports and exports. So that's the way he leverages tariffs, and it's going to be a net benefit for everybody. And to say if tariffs one way or the other are not going to really affect inflation, and we haven't. And you made a good point about the stock market. It's actually booming. The Dow's up. The stock market is really high, and that's also a good thing. So I just say that a lot of what you said is like based in what could happen and future projections, but so far so good. I mean, he's doing a killer job, right? I mean, inflation under Biden way up, and I know you're going to blame it on COVID. But,
Well,
just and the safety and go ahead.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
you're
wanna
fine. You're
pivot to
fine.
a different.
No, you're good. You're good. So here's the thing. When it comes to these tariffs, you have to ask yourself who's paying these tariffs, and the companies who are importing the products are the ones paying the tariff, not the country that is being exported from. These companies are having to bear the brunt of these tariffs, and just like any other business, right? The idea behind trickle down. I don't know if you necessarily believe in trickle down economics. The idea is that when we cut taxes for corporations, they'll end up passing those cuts down to the consumer. If that's the case, then necessarily vice versa, we would have to say that any increase in taxes would be passed on to the consumer as well, right? Businesses love their profits. I'm not someone who's trying to be a socialist and say, oh, billionaire profits, but we have to acknowledge that they will pass those costs down. Now, that is where I was talking about earlier, which is that these companies, though, understand that it's working its way through the Supreme Court, and it's certainly possible that they may be able to get by with it. So they're kind of doing this thing where they're kind of not really increasing their prices as much. They're taking maybe a little bit of a hit, but that's because they're expecting the Supreme Court to overturn it. If they don't overturn it, then they will start to see those increase in prices. And that goes down for any basic economics with a business, right? If we have an increase, and this is one of the reasons when I talk about this, when it comes to labor and minimum wage and things of that nature, is because any extra cost to the business is going to lead to an increase in prices. The question is to what degree are we going to see that increase in prices? And I think that's what we're seeing here with these businesses, is that extra tax is being passed. In fact, I think there was a CBO report that just came out recently that showed 90% of the tariffs have been passed on to the consumer. So that is what I'm saying. It's not a matter of what if. Many economists know that this is the case.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just a plea to authority, right? Or majority.
Sure, I would agree with you. Appealing to economists isn't. Yes, I agree.
Just because they're and right, and I know that's fine, but yes, they could pass down to the consumer, but there's also other options, right? They could, move manufacturing. They could, they could lower the price on their end. They could do different things, because the one thing to lose a customer is to increase your price for the customer, and they can go somewhere else, right? So they still have to remain competitive. And for you just to say that they're gonna raise the price on things, I don't think that's necessarily true, unless it's like, maybe like unless the price point on that item is maybe not that much, and like if I'm paying 50 cents more for my egg or for my meat or something like that, like that's not gonna be too much of a burden, and that's actually a burden that I'm willing to foot for the leverage that it gives us to have the tariffs and to use them as a negotiating tool for not just doing a better job on their imports and exports to us, right? But for negotiating anything, right? And really, if we strengthen America from within, we are truly a world power, and everything's going to come to us, right? Instead of us being taken, they continuously take. Now they're going to come to us. There's no reason why everybody in America, we all can't be rich, be the strongest, most powerful country without these politicians leeching off of us.
So let me just say this. I would encourage you to go look at the shift towards AI. Amazon is doing just this. Amazon just announced, I think it was a couple of weeks ago maybe, where they announced they're laying off like 60-some thousand. It's a ballpark estimate. I think it was like 60 to 80. It might be in that range. It might be even more. As a matter of fact, let me check, because I want to be accurate on this. Let me see here. It was layoffs. Where is it? Okay, 16,000 people in January 2026. That's on top of the 14,000 in October 2025. And this is because they're making a shift towards AI. And they're very open about this, by the way. They're not hiding it at all. And this is something that people need to keep in mind, is that these jobs are not really coming back here. And the other problem is that as we do this thing where we put up walls to the rest of the world is realigning with trade partners. We saw this with Canada. Canada's realigning with China. And actually, Canada's coming out pretty strong in a lot of different ways. The EU is starting to realign themselves as well. I'd also encourage you, we talked about trade deals earlier, look into those trade deals. A lot of them are very, very hollow. There's not real much meat and substance to it. I think even with the EU deal, only thing we're really giving to the EU is like maybe some petroleum or gas, which is what we've been doing to begin with. And that tends to be what happens with these trade deals is we go towards, we create a trade deal that we already had. And keep in mind, Trump's not erasing the tariffs. He's just lowering the tariffs. He did that with, I think, India and I think Vietnam, but he ended up just lowering the tariff. He didn't actually get rid of them. So this is the problem we have is that now.
He threatens a big number. And then,
So and that's what I'm saying. When we look
go ahead.
So when we look at statistics, I'll give you this, and we'll keep moving forward. I don't want to keep harping on the economy. I want to kind of make it a little bit fun and different in this. I will give you this with immigration. Let's move towards that, if you don't mind. Do you want to say any last words about the economy before we move on to the immigration topic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No. But we can, from all the projections that they've given and all the, the cloud is falling, the sky is falling, what they've said about the Trump administration as far as the economy's been. I mean, we got to admit, it's not been all doom and gloom. I guess that's all I'm saying. Yeah, let's move on to immigration.
Sure, let's do that. So when it comes to immigration, I will say this. I think that the border is secured. And I mean that in the sense that immigration or undocumented crossings have decreased. Now, I think there's some playing with numbers that they've done. They've changed up how they measure border crossings, but I will admit that there is something about a strong stance on the border, but that's where I draw my line. I think everything thereafter with Donald Trump has been excessive, right? When I was arguing with some conservatives in 2024 about immigration, I told them that this is what's going to happen. When Donald Trump says, I want to get the criminals out, I was saying that Tom Homan was going after those who violated 14 USC or whatever it was, section 1325, right? Which was simply crossing the border undocumented. And sure enough, here we are. We're seeing that is just what is happening. And I haven't gotten to that story, and that's okay because I love debating on TikTok. But there is even we're starting to see some of that affect the Texas crawfish. I saw that story right before I went live. Texas crawfish season is going to have a small shortage because of the lack of immigrant workers. So, and listen, as far as the immigrant workers go, and I won't harp on too long, I tend to go a little while, so please stop me at any point that you'd want to talk about it. The thing about immigrant workers is I think we should provide them a pathway so that they are beholden to our labor laws. And even to some degree, if they're here on certain work visas, they are beholden to those labor laws, right? And I think we should punish those companies who abused them. So I want to preface everything I'm saying about the immigrants that are no longer working in the Texas crawfish sector, but that we're seeing these real-time things play out. We're seeing U.S. citizens, right, being affected by this because of the way that they're doing stop and frisk, essentially. So I think that one good thing about the border doesn't outweigh the 10 other bad things. You there, Chill Guy?
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I guess, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, is it a little delay?
I think you have a slight delay when you hear me because you take a sec. But
yeah, go ahead.
No worries. The border is secure. You are correct. Trump made a promise, and that was a big part of why he won, is because the American people want less people in this country illegally, because they understand that, one, it can be harmful to the economy. Two, some of those people are violent criminals who they've staunchly gone after. And if you're saying that, like, we're losing these jobs with the crawfish and that job with the crawfish, like they didn't have the best season. Yeah, I mean, that's on them, right? They need to be hired people legally, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles there. And I get the argument, but I guess my second point would be, this is what he ran on, and he's doing nothing different than what Obama and Biden did, and they deported even more people than Trump did, right? The only difference is the Democrats' rhetoric is dangerous, right? They preach, fascists, Nazis. They call the Republicans, they call ICE the Gestapo, right? So they're planting the seed in the Democrats' mind, and they're going out in Minnesota and acting completely insane, right? And that for me is highly problematic. That's the rhetoric surrounding that notion of what ICE is doing. I think the board having people here legally and coming to our country the way strengthens our country. I think it sets a precedent, and I think it disincentivizes less criminals to come here. And we could talk about like the smug running and everything like that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
So
answered that question.
no, you're
Yeah,
good.
that's how I
So
feel about it.
yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to read you just one sentence from Trump that was a couple of days ago. AG Pam Bondi under intense fire from the Trump deranged radical left lunatics. You talked about the rhetoric coming from the left. There is massive, massive, abhorrent rhetoric coming from Donald Trump. In fact, I can pull any number of times where Donald Trump has referred to the left as either, radical or communist, or hell, there's even been some kinds of times that they've called them fascistic. Okay. So there's numerous of that going on the right. And when we talk about what is happening with ICE is not Trump. First of all, Obama did not send in a full task force to states in this kind of degree, and certainly didn't do it against the governor's wishes. Okay. He did do and got a lot of people deported, but look at who those people were. They were targeted operations that were for violent criminals. What Donald Trump is doing now is saying that if you've crossed the border undocumented, that you are now a criminal that is the same as somebody who committed a violent felony. And I think that is the key difference between Trump and Obama. And if you didn't like what happened with Obama, necessarily you would have to not like what happened with Donald Trump.
So wait, what's your, because that one I'd have to push back a little bit back on, because I don't believe the ICE raids with Trump are very targeted. They're very precise. These guys know exactly what they're doing, who they're going after. They're not wimbly dimbly. The Democrats are well organized, and they even have, they you saw that. What's it called? The it's not Telegram. It's Signal. They had the Signal chat talking about where they're going to be, what uniform, or what they're driving, so on. It's a very detailed description of their like inner workings. Like this is set up. This is like a staged operation for the Democrats against ICE, which certainly was not present under the Obama administration. The second thing is, I would like to see a source about how like which people were deported and weren't, because Obama deported millions of people, and that I would want to see the percentage of just people here that were illegally were deported, and the ones that were violent. If you're saying he deported that many violent illegal immigrants, that would be interesting to me. I definitely would want to see a source on that.
Sure, I'm pulling it up right now.
But regardless, I mean, if you're here illegally and our country wants our borders safe, and the previous administration was letting people in, you have cases such as Nungare and various people that were unalived and raped by these criminals. Yeah, of course it's going to be a flashpoint. It's going to be a major talking point for the Trump administration. Okay, and then he's going to back up those promises.
So here's the thing. Okay, those who mention Jocelyn Nungary probably can't name, and I'm engaging with you because I do feel like you're coming at this in a very good faith argument. So I'm not trying to jump down your throat or anything on this. But when we talk about Jocelyn Nungary, a lot of people can't even name 5 or even, quite frankly, 10 people who were victimized by undocumented migrants. And even if that were the case, that you could name 5 or 10, that 5 or 10 does not justify then going after those who are just running about their day-to-day life. A lot of those people who are running about their day-to-day life, and the only crime, quote unquote, that they had committed was crossing the border illegally. And then when we talk about, going in, and there's a lot of a good chunk of undocumented migrants who end up paying taxes because they think it helps them with their immigration court hearings. And if we look at what's going on here, I'll pulled up the stat. As of early 2026, a significant majority of individuals detained by ICE, approximately 73 to 74%, have no criminal convictions. 73 to 74%. Now, I looked at Obama's, and it does say that 50 to 60% of total removals involved individuals with prior criminal convictions. And it's important that even with those, you can say, well, what about the other 40%? Glad you asked. The other 40% have to do with those that went about their normal deportation hearings, right? It's not just the ones that have no prior criminal convictions. It could be that they were not allowed or anything like that. What is happening specifically with Trump that is different than Obama is that Trump is going through with his ICE goons, and he's actually just stopping random people because I'm going to say it like it is, and this is allowed through the Supreme Court because of their ethnicity. And I want to say this real quick, and I'll let you answer. Guys, please tap the button. We're at 1.3K, okay? We had like 100 people in here, and then it dropped down. Please tap, okay? We're at 1.3K. There should be no reason when we had like 100 people in here that we should have that. YouTube, guys, what are you doing? Hit that like and subscribe button, okay? Hit that like button. Let's try to get up to, I don't know, 50 likes, okay? It's been a struggle on on YouTube lately. But guys, please, as you're coming in, tap. All right, Chill Guy, go ahead. I'll let you respond.
Yeah, guys, no window watching. If you're watching from the For You page, click into the channel so you can see the views will go up, guys. Make that happen for them.
Please do.
No window watching. Don't be beta. Plus, you can see the comments because they're real triggered in the comments, you know. So
yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. No, man. I mean, that's a fair point, right? But I mean, again, that was 8 years of Obama deporting versus Trump deporting for 1 year. Right. So we have to take that into consideration. And that's millions of people that were deported just because they were here legally. Right. Or no, sorry, just illegally with no prior criminal conviction. So I think that's a pretty, I think that's a good point that you made. But really, I don't see it working out like in regards to that benefit, because we'd have to see Trump for another, 7 years, technically, because we're not really counting his first 4 years, because that's not really something he ran on as far as the border goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, to move on from the deportation
yep.
number itself, like what else do you have like an issue with? Like because I don't, this wouldn't be a problem if the Democrats weren't out going absolutely ham baloney on these friggin' ICE agents,
Well, I'm not a big fan of just hand waving Trump's actions because the Democrats didn't do their job. I think that's not the way to approach it. I think that when we look at what happened with this particular enforcement, it didn't have to happen this way. It doesn't have to, right? You can go through and be strong on immigration through the court system. You can do more immigration judges. There is a pathway to strengthen our immigration processes. And if there are people here that don't have proper asylum claims, they can go back to where they need to go. That's perfectly fine. What we're seeing too is Trump deporting people to countries that they don't even belong in. We've seen, and this is kind of a lesser known issue, and it's certainly something that you ought to look into, is that what they're doing is as soon as they pick them up in Minnesota, they're deporting them all the way down to Texas so that they don't have due process over there in Minnesota. And the judge, I think it was Boasberg, I could be wrong on that, ended up saying, you can't do this. I want every single person that was sent to Texas from Minnesota sent back to Minnesota so that they can face their due process and have those due process rights. So I would encourage you to look more into that, because I do feel that you're kind of coming to me with these very common points. And so I'm reaching kind of over to you and saying, look, dig a little deeper and you'll see that what you're being fed is not quite what is actually the concern. I'm coming at it from a very reasonable perspective. I'm not screaming to the rafters. I will say that we would still see, if Trump had not done that Minnesota surge, I believe with all my heart that Renee Good and Alex Peretti would probably still be alive today. Those were avoidable unalivements. And I'm saying unalive so because of TikTok language. I just think that this was an absolute disaster. Yeah. And I think they're starting to recognize it because they're starting to pull everybody out of Minnesota. Tom Homan has said they've done their job and they're leaving.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that means they're reasonable and you reason with them. But I mean, why were they out there impeding and infringing on ICE with their investigation? Like when they're trying to do their job, these are just regular people like you and me who have a job to do. Like going after them is like the craziest thing ever. Like it is pretty deranged. And it's a little bit unhinged. These people are videoing them. They're trying to get them to take their masks off. It's like, dude, these guys are just doing what they're told. Like, and honestly, it worked out in their favor. I think the Democrats got exactly what they wanted, right? And they're willing to put bodies in front of this machine to create flashpoints to make Trump look bad. I honestly think the Democrats' rhetoric, that's what it leads to.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'll give you your last word, and then I'm going to kind of move on so I can address some chat and things like that and bring in somebody else. I think we've had a really great conversation, by the way.
Absolutely, man.
I think that one thing I'll say is this, is that would you agree, and this is the powerful ending I'll leave out on, would you agree that it is inappropriate for ICE agents to call U.S. citizens who are protesting and using their First Amendment rights to call them an F and B word? Do you think that's appropriate? And then I'll let you give your out.
No,
of course, with that, give your outro as well. I'm sorry, I should have phrased it that better way.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good, man. I appreciate you chatting with me. I like. I think you're. I haven't seen you on TikTok before, but have you been debating long?
I have been.
Just kind of
so here's a little background about me. I've been in online politics for the past 7 years. I've had 2 kids in that time frame, and so it's been one of those things where I start, I stop, I start, I stop, and I'm trying to start and stay starting, but it comes and goes. So it's been a mixed bag. But I've been debating technically since 2019, so I've engaged around the block a time or two.
Actually, I used to be used to be well known on this app for quite a while, but
wow,
this is like just some random account I had, but yeah, you used to be, but yeah, no, I mean, you got a good head about you.
Thank
You
you.
know, TikTok is stressful, like it's, you know, especially debating live and everything like that. I think you're reasonable. You make good articulate points. I think a lot of it, you dig into it, but probably not enough. I'd like you to debate like Millie, maybe. Have you heard of Millie?
I have heard of Millie plenty, and I have engaged with Millie a few times. And I like to say
really?
that I'm saying this with respect too. I think that when it comes to higher caliber debaters, now I say higher caliber, not necessarily as a form of respect, so to speak, but there are certain people that I would rather have a scheduled debate with, because then it becomes one-sided. I tell people this, I tell new streamers in this all the time. I say, if you're going to debate somebody, don't go into their territory unprepared. If you're going to randomly go into somebody's panel unprepared, you're going to get absolutely obliterated. Okay. I like to have time. I like to be able to, yes. And I want to be able to be prepared for those debates. I actually debated Andrew Wilson a couple of times, and it was quite entertaining. You can find that on YouTube. So, but
oh, dude, I'll watch it, bro. Is this your main? Yeah, Andrew Wilson. Yeah, I think he's kind of. I think he's kind of a tool a little bit, but he's a good debater. But he gets into like strict logic and you know stuff. There's
a strategy there to get around it. But chill guy, man, I appreciate you coming in, man, and take care, and maybe we'll talk about again.
Have a great weekend,
soon.
man.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So TikTok, listen, guys, what are you doing? We had like 100 people in here at one point. We're up to 1.6 taps. We can get up to 5K. Okay, we're 15 of you guys. Just tap. Okay, as fast as you can. All right, that was a great debate. I think we have some people waiting in the queue. Let me address YouTube for a second. YouTube, man, what is going on, guys? I'm sorry that I have kind of been ignoring you guys for a quick second here. So first of all, I see some gradual decay saying voter ID is go. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So voter ID, for anybody who's unaware, Trump now said that he's going to take over and he's going to put in executive orders, and that he's going to put in, he is going to go in and put in a voter ID without Congress. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yes, that is what Trump is wanting to do. Go subvert Congress, federalize elections. It's crazy. And I probably shouldn't have said that word on TikTok. Pretend I didn't. I love the TikTok shop. But guys, as you're coming in here, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. I've never been pew-pewed by ICE. That's great. But 2 people have been, and they're no longer with us. So, yeah. Edith said they're running with criminals. They probably criminals as well. Use your common sense. If you're running with criminals, you don't even know if they're running with criminals. That's the problem here, Edith. You're assuming, this is the problem I talked about last time on a TikTok panel earlier, is I said, look, if you're sitting here doing any kind of study about somebody's ethnicity and crime, it almost always turns out into a negative view. It almost never turns into a positive, right? All right, let's see if there's somebody waiting in queue. I think we have Logan Hendricks here. Let me go ahead and bring him up real quick. See if he wants to join. I don't think he's going to join. Okay, he didn't join. So let's go back into this. Does he just fill us in for right? Exactly, Trump. Guys, hey guys, as you're coming in, we got 2,000. Let's get to 5,000. There's no reason we shouldn't have it. Hit tap 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 tap. All right, let's do this. As we're waiting for people to come in, let's jump straight into some news topics as people wait to queue up. All right, so let's talk about this. We talked about immigration. Perfect transition to move into this news story by Tom Homan. Tom Homan said, I have proposed and President Trump has concurred that the surge operation has concluded. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week. This shows that protesting works. This is why I have sat there and said, how do we queue up? You just hit the little, really, Trevor, I'm really looking for pro-Trump supporters right now. If you're a pro-Trump supporter, by all means, jump on in. If not, we'll talk another time. Maybe I'll do some, friendly conversations. But you can hit that little 2-person icon down at the bottom and on the bottom right-hand corner. You should be able to join if you wanted to do that, if you are pro-Trump. Okay, so next thing we have here is Tom Homan again saying, I'll say it again, President Trump made a promise of mass deportations, and that's what this country is going to get. But it's smart law enforcement to do targeted operations. And as we talked about with the previous guest, is that targeted operations are not happening, right? They've got somebody in a nice vehicle that pulls up to somebody and just randomly starts asking them for their ID. That's not targeted operations. If by targeted, you mean I see someone of a certain ethnicity, thus I'm going to stop them. That's not a targeted operation, right? That's just not a targeted operation. And then we have Keith Ellison. Oh, talking about Minnesota. He came in front of a congressional hearing, and it was just almost as bad. It was the Republican version of what happened with Pam Bondi, albeit Keith Ellison held himself like a G, okay? AG Keith Ellison said the surge is contributing to violent crime. 2 of the 3 unalivings in Minneapolis in 2026 have come at the hands of federal immigration agents. Let that sink in. The Democratic leaders were able to bring that. Just FYI, the button is not there for me anyway. Not sure if you have that option to just join turned on. I have it turned on. Let me see. It could be. I hope there's not a restriction. Sometimes people can get a restriction. I don't see. Yeah, I have allow guest every request for everyone. So I'm not sure. Might have to reboot it or something. All right, let's keep going. So this is the crazy thing, right? Is that Minnesota has already done a real good job at bringing down their crime, and ICE comes in and then messes it all up, right? Just absolutely messes it up. And then the other exchange that happened was Ron Johnson got into it with Keith Ellison saying, are you aware of training for activists, Mr. Ellison, referring to Antifa? And Keith Ellison said, yeah, I'm aware. It's common for people to use their First Amendment rights. Because you see, the Republican Party nowadays doesn't support free speech, right? The Republican Party nowadays absolutely is against that. At least the Republican Party that I grew up with was pro-free speech, pro-2A, pro a whole bunch of different amendments. And now they have shifted away from that because, well, it's Trump, right? We also had here Ron Johnson to Keith Ellison saying 2 people are unalived because you encourage them to put themselves in harm's way, and now you are exploiting those 2 martyrs. You ought to feel damn guilty about it. Yeah, sit there and smirk. It's sick. It's despicable. You disgust me. You know what really disgusts me? When you sit there and blame Keith Ellison for the actions of those ICE officers that didn't have to do that. In fact, the ICE officers with Alex Peretti, you want to call Keith Ellison the reason that those ICE officers were even there to begin with. Why don't you blame who's to blame? This is victim blaming to a T. This is exactly what that is, right? Hey guys, as you're coming in, hit that tap. We're at 3K. Let's get to 5K. All right. Then we have a heated exchange between Josh Hawley and Keith Ellison, and it even prompted Rand Paul to jump in. It is a long-winded thing. Go check it out. Rick Scott said no one wanted Renee Good or Alex Peretti to unalive, but there is no but to this. Yo, you know what? We got Corbin. Corbin's an exception. He is part of our wonderful group. He is part of the On F America Tour. I don't know if you meant to request up. But anyways, you're more welcome, Corbin, if you want to come up. We can certainly talk. I saw that you guys were in South Carolina today. Definitely check out On F America. They do some really cool stuff, especially with Destiny and things like that. I actually saw Corbin on the video. Shout out, Corbin. That was really cool. By the way, me and Corbin also debated Andrew Wilson together. That was actually really, really fun. And we actually got them pretty good on the protests that took place in there. It was pretty good. All right. Anyways, enough gloating about Corbin. Let's move on to this. Let's see. We had somebody request up. Luther Burden fan. Okay. Let's see who he's about.
Yo, you're a Destiny fan?
Not per se, but I mean, I'm not against him necessarily. I think he has an
Do
interesting
you know he
debate.
said that a 15-year-old was super hot in a group chat when he was like 25 years old?
All right. We're not going to do all this. We're not going to do all this. I'm not going to do this whole Destiny weird shit. Not going to happen. I'm here to debate politics. If you want to come up and talk about politics instead of a streamer, more than happy to do that. I'm not somebody here to try to debate a streamer or Hassan or Asmongold or anything like that. That's not my forte. I'm here to talk about current events. If you want to talk about current events, request up. All right. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Fetterman then said, I met with Secretary Noem. I've always treated her with respect. I refuse and never will engage in the kinds of sexist terms like Ice Barbie that the left media will use. So it's hilarious to me that John Fetterman, who is a Democrat, almost always sides with the right, even though the right sat there and made fun of this man, right? It's crazy to me. It's crazy. So the other thing with Keith Ellis, we had I think it's Troy Scott. I can't remember his name. I believe he's with the Department of Homeland Security or something along those lines. Gallego asked, after Renee Good was unalive, the agent called her an effing B word on camera. Is this how your agents are trained to act? And Scott said, no, sir. And Gallego said, is that professional? So we had somebody from, I believe it's DHS. I can't remember his name. I think it's Troy Scott. Ended up saying, no, that's not how they should act. That is the most truthful thing we have had from this administration in quite a while. Noem said, and so Noem, then Kristi Noem went to a warehouse or something like that because of the whole budgetary thing that's going on, right? And so she was trying to do her kind of tour to try to encourage Democrats to get on board with her budgetary policies. Well, in that so doing, when she stopped at this thing, there was whistles and protesters and everything else, and you could visibly hear them on the camera. And she said, they're obviously expressing their First Amendment rights, and we welcome that. So long they do so peacefully, I think it's a wonderful thing. Well, my question then would be, if you think it's a wonderful thing, then why are you sitting there saying such horrible things about Alex Peretti and Renee Good? All right, we got somebody named Aaron coming up. Or not. Aaron, you coming up? Nope. Okay, that's fine. So, John, you can go somewhere else if you don't like this content, my buddy. So there you go. Go somewhere else. All right. So the other one we got here is, it's funny to me when people come in here like, who are you talking to? Well, if you are so upset, you can go somewhere else. I don't care. I'd rather have someone who wants to engage in chat and be good faith. Anyways, let's move forward. Not going to waste more time. We also saw an interesting thing too. So we saw where even Trump appointed judges have mostly ruled against his administration's mandatory detention policy. Even Trump appointed judges. See, I remember when they talked about this, they said the liberal judges or the left-wing judges, right? And here they are right now, clearly ruling against the Trump administration. I got Liam number one coming in. Let's see what Liam wants. Liam, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Vince Wilson Show. Are you a Trump supporter?
I am a Trump supporter, yeah. I'm a conservative.
Okay. Let me ask you, what do you like about what Trump has done so far?
I like his idea of, tariffs and what he's doing with tariffs, with the economy. I think that needs to happen. I know that it's volatile for sure. I think he's kind of, they say, tacoed quite a few times with tariffs and stuff. I think his immigration, is necessary as well, and I don't agree with all of it. I know that ICE has made some mistakes for sure, There's some things that I'm definitely like, that might be a little rough. That might be a little too far, you know. But I see him as a target. I see him as not being treated fair on, as a president, unlike other presidents that had no issue deporting migrants out of this country. So yeah,
So let me
there's a
let me
lot.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
let me talk. So about immigration. Okay. First of all, okay, I think he has been given far more grace than he probably ought to be, because it's funny to me when people bring up other presidents, right? Those other presidents have been judged relentlessly. And I always bring this up. If you have a problem with what happened with Obama, by necessity, if you are a principled conservative, you would have to be upset with what is happening with Donald Trump. Unless you enjoyed what Obama did, and by all means, tell me you actually enjoyed what Obama did. But that's the problem here too, is I think there is a fundamental difference between the two. I kind of laid that out with the previous guest. I think what happened with Obama was more specifically targeted, and it was showing that there is a stark difference in the fact that they deported, I think it was like 50 to 60% of actual criminals, convicted criminals at that, not just accused. This is another thing that the Trump administration is doing. They're not just deporting convicted criminals. They're deporting people who have simply been charged with the particular crime. In this country, I've understood that you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. And further on that, they're also deporting people who are here as just run-of-the-mill people. Like, they're not people who have committed a crime outside of the USC 1325, and I use crime loosely on that, okay? But that's the key issue. And I think that's the difference between Obama and Trump. I think they're dramatically different. But if you're upset with Obama, you'd have to be upset with Trump.
So Bush was before Obama's 2-year term, right?
Bush was before Obama's 2-year term. What do you
Is that correct?
I mean, technically, yeah.
Okay. So, I don't remember Bush or, that administration, the previous administration, looking for power and saying that, this man, because of his deporter in chief mentality, Barack Obama, cages and all this stuff. I don't think that you could bring up videos saying that this man hates immigrants. Okay. And I definitely don't think that you saw caravans, and I don't even know what the number of millions of people that came in to the United States under the previous administration before Barack Obama. Okay. So there is an unprecedented event that has happened in this country, and allowing immigrants because of sanctuary cities and everything that we got going on. And I believe that Donald Trump has made himself a target and a punching bag and trying to fulfill his campaign promises with deportation. So that's exactly factual what's happening right now.
What do you think a sanctuary city is?
And you're muted.
I am sorry. What do you think a
No,
sanctuary?
you're not. It was the best you've ever sounded, actually.
What do you think a sanctuary city is?
I think that would be a state that pushes back against and doesn't help with like ICE. Okay, is like defying like the lawful duty of ICE. When you're seeing like where Renee Nicole Good, what happened to her and everything, and they're making these people out to be martyrs, okay? When in reality, they're just breaking the law, and there's consequences when we break the law. So yeah. I think that these states, when Tim Walz is coming out and saying, I'm going to deploy National Guard, okay, to get ICE out of our city, to protect literally career insurrectionists, if I could find a better word, these people who are saying that their job, like Alex Petty, is what? Standing in the middle of the street with a firearm on your side and protesting with your Second Amendment on. You're not telling anyone that you're carrying. I mean, it's pretty crazy, dude.
So let me rewind it a little bit. I asked about sanctuary cities. Let me explain what a sanctuary city is. A sanctuary city is saying that I'm not going to necessarily do your job for you. And what that means is that if they were to arrest an undocumented migrant, for example, right, and that migrant was an undocumented migrant, they're not necessarily going to report that to the federal government to come and get that particular person. But if the federal government wants to come get them, they're not going to stop them from doing that. And that is the biggest misconception about sanctuary cities, is that it's been used as a boogeyman word without actually really understanding what that means. And in the case of Minnesota, they have come out and said, and even the Bureau of Prisons has come out and said the same thing, is that if the ICE comes up and they say, hey, we've got a detainer, they will hand them over to ICE to then deport them. They're just saying, we're not going to do your job for you. That's all that means. And in fact, and to your point about Alex Peretti and Renee Good, Alex Peretti, he was disarmed when they unalived him. Now, mind you, we're using TikTok language. So that is why I'm saying unalive. Just keep that in mind that we are on TikTok.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like, even with Alex Peretti, he was unarmed. You literally see the officer running away with his pew-pew. Okay. And I think that this Alex Peretti situation is tragic. It is absolutely gross. And I do think that officer ought to be charged. I do.
Well, I think that in the middle of the dog pile that happened on the back of him, I definitely know that he did not go, oh shit, I have a firearm on my side. I've just engaged in a physical altercation with law enforcement, and I need to get down on my hands and knees, hands out on the ground, and start screaming, I'm carrying, because being a Second Amendment, concealed carry person, it is your duty to tell law enforcement that you are carrying. Okay, that is supposed to happen right away, especially if there is an altercation.
So here's the thing. We can talk about who engaged with it. My opinion is, if you look at that, it's very obvious that the officer engaged with Peretti before Peretti was just standing around, was protesting, stepped back, and then all of a sudden the officer pushes the woman down on the ground. Alex Peretti stands in front of him. He then pushes and shoves Alex Peretti, and then Peretti falls to the ground. I think it's important that we talk about that, because here's the thing. Do you believe that the mere possession of a pew-pew should be enough to unalive somebody? I don't think so. I think that's insane.
Absolutely not. I think that we all deserve the right, especially if we take courses and pass, and we have a concealed carry permit. I love it. I think more people should partake in this. But it's not a joke. It's something you have to take very seriously. Your life can be threatened when you're carrying, and other people's life can be threatened. You can also protect lives, okay? That's what it's for, is to protect yourself and possibly to protect others. Now, I don't believe that there was a crosswalk or a sidewalk where he was at and he just got caught up. He was in the middle of a street where their obviously officers were trying to get down that street, yelling at people, get out of the way, get off of the street. He wasn't listening. He's the same guy that was kicking taillights out of SUVs, okay, and spitting on people. This guy was literally asking for a fight, pleading for a fight with ICE officers, okay? And not saying what happened to him was completely justified.
Let's hold on to that. Wait, I want to pause you right there, because I think this is super important. And that's what I was going to ask you. I want to pause here for a second. What aspect of this do you think was incorrect? Because you said, doesn't mean that I think everything that happened was right.
Him being an agitator and not being a protester. That's the biggest problem.
So do you think the problem is with Peretti? You don't think the officers did anything wrong? Nothing at all? The officers couldn't have properly de-escalated that situation. They could have moved on. They had to get out of their car and engage with Peretti. You don't think they had any culpability whatsoever?
Yeah, I think that there was, but what I'm telling you is when the chaos happened and when there was a dog pile going on, if they didn't have full control of Alex at that time, and let's make the argument that one of those officers screamed, gun, firearm, gun, and then one of them, who's maybe not that well trained, pops off the first shot And then in the middle of that chaos, then the rest of them start going, oh my gosh, was that Alex that popped off? Somebody screamed gun. And then it starts happening. You can't see how this escalated and escalated and escalated until his life was gone. Okay, this is the same group of people who are going, these are completely unqualified, untrained officers. When you have the officer that took down Ray Nicole Good, what's his name?
Yeah, the officer
anyway.
called Renee Good an effing B word.
I don't
Before.
care. Freedom of speech. I wish he would have called it to her more. She was acting like one. And I'm
She was
sorry to say
acting
that.
like
but
one?
yeah, bro, for sure.
I'm not going to engage with this. It was ironic too, and the reason why I kicked him is because of this simple reason. Okay, I sat there and listened to the previous guest talk about the rhetoric of the left, and you just heard it right there. That rhetoric right there. I think she was an effing B word. I don't want to engage with that. I don't. It's amazing to me how the right will sit there and accuse the left of all of that horrific rhetoric. And I let it went on. I let it go on. I sat there and I tried to engage with good faith. I tried to give him room to speak. That's my line. I think it's disgusting to consider a woman. You want to sit there. I want you guys to think about this. If I called Charlie Kirk an effing B word, would I sit here and I would be absolutely doxxed? I would have everybody in my inbox screaming at me. But the moment that someone talks about someone on the left in that way, it's okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. I'm sorry. I'm not going to engage with that. I'm just not going to. I think this guy was running from the debate because he was losing. I was losing. You don't even know what was happening, Liam. And you went as far to characterize somebody who is unalived. You wouldn't even give me that grace if I were to call Charlie Kirk that. You'd believe in the First Amendment, but then when Alex Peretti is sitting there doing his First Amendment, it is unalived because of his First Amendment protections. You get upset. You pick and choose, and this is what the right does, is they pick and choose when they get upset. They don't have a principled stance. I'll give you my principled stance. I believe in the First Amendment, right, left, center, whatever. In fact, if I talk about J6, I'll tell you this. There are people that were on J6 on just the lawn who I would say were probably in the right. If they were just on the lawn, they didn't enter into the Capitol, hey, guess what? They were completely fine because I believe in the First Amendment. Okay? BLM, there were peaceful protesters there. I believe they were able to do so. But the criminals ought to be convicted. Right? You commit a crime while protesting, you should be convicted and charged and arrested, not unalived. That's the key thing. Let's move on to these stories because I got a lot to cover anyways, and we're already like 6 minutes over, but I don't know what time it is. All right, let's go to the next one. Levitt said Mr. Holman was able to achieve a level of cooperation with local police, even though Mayor Fry has said there is no deal. We also said Stephen Miller claims the Trump minister. Oh, that's the one we were talking about. Trump was speaking on before he got on to Marine One, okay? And he said that Democrats have gone crazy. Remember how I was telling you the previous guest, I was talking to them and I said, hey, we have some more stories coming up that you'll see that the president engages in this insane rhetoric. And by the way, guys, if I am wiping my brow, it is because I'm sweating because these debates are so, no, I'm kidding. I'm sweating because I'm in a freaking garage without AC. I'm getting a little AC box coming here soon. The Democrats have gone crazy. The radical left lunatics. That's why their cities are so unsafe. The blue cities are the cities that are unsafe. So we have to protect our law enforcement. Once again, calling the left deranged and radical, but that's okay rhetoric. That's okay rhetoric from the right. Then we have Caroline Levitt describing the FBI as part of the Trump administration, which we kind of already knew that. Even though the FBI and the DOJ is supposed to, even though they're part of the executive branch, DOJ is part of the judicial branch, but you get what I'm saying. They are under the, even though they're under that kind of purview of the president, the issue there is that they're supposed to be an independent agency, an independent body, right? They're supposed to act independent at least, right? And they're not. And that's kind of the issue here. Now, when I see that Caroline Levitt is describing the FBI as part of the Trump administration, it's no surprise. Let's see. I think AE wants to come up. Let's see what AE wants.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, E. How are you doing?
Good in yourself?
Doing good, doing good. Let me turn you down just a little bit. You're really loud.
Are you a
So
Trump supporter?
I am not a Trump supporter. Are you?
Oh,
Are you a Trump supporter?
no, I'm not.
Okay.
Because I seen what he did in Jeffrey Epstein's files.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
hey, man. Listen, I really appreciate you coming in, but I'm really looking for some Trump supporters. All right.
All right, but I am, Mega bro.
Oh, you're a Trump supporter? You just said you
Yeah,
weren't.
I was just joking. I just
Okay.
wanted to see. Yeah.
So what do you support about
my
Donald
bad.
Trump?
Everything about ICE, man.
What specifically about ICE?
Right, bitch.
Immature. Absolutely immature. Let's move on. Matter of fact, because you're so immature, we'll go ahead and just do that. Bye-bye. Ooh. Sure. I don't, what the hell? Okay. There we go. All right. This guy's not even having a straight up conversation. He has bullet points written down. Okay, Liam, you can go somewhere else too. I don't care. Bye-bye. You don't like the show? Go somewhere else. You want to get upset that I said that? So to be it. And you can go too. Bye. Don't care. See how easy that was? Don't care. All right. We also had Don Lemon. Don Lemon said, let's see here. Right, Trevor? Hey, listen, Trevor, I don't have time for all this. Listen, if you don't enjoy the show, why are you even commenting? You're really only helping the algorithm. You're only helping me out, so appreciate it. Don Lemon said, I will not be intimidated. I will not back down. I'll fight these baseless charges. So anyone who's unaware, Don Lemon was indicted today, federal indictment. And the thing that Trump doesn't realize is that this is the Streisand effect, right? By persecuting Don Lemon, they're only making his voice bigger, right? They're only making his voice much bigger. Yo, by the way, 5,000 heartbeats. Let's go. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Tap, 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 tap. And guys, if you are on YouTube, okay, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Really helps us out in the algorithm. All right, let's go to the next one. Ahead of today's Don Lemon arraignment, Reporters Without Borders said prosecuting journalists is the desperate tactic of authoritarians. So here's the thing about Don Lemon, okay? A lot of people I don't believe that are engaging in this conversation about Don Lemon have actually watched the video, okay? If you look at what happened with Don Lemon did everything a journalist should do. And there's a fine line between journalism and participation. There are people who went into J6, for example, and participated and claimed that they were a journalist, right? And there are certain metrics, I haven't looked at it in a while, but there are certain metrics that have to meet that, a test, if you will, right? Were you actively participating in the planning? And that doesn't mean that you were present. Being present doesn't mean you were actively participating in the planning of said event. Actively obstructing a doorway, for example, which they accused Don Lemon of, but if you go and watch the actual video, Don Lemon wasn't doing such a thing, right? And this is what Donald Trump is trying to do. And I do believe this is what's going to happen is they're going to charge Don Lemon. They're going to try to indict him. They're going to make the process the punishment, right? They're not going to use they don't expect this to actually hit trial. They will end up dropping the trial or the charges or something will happen. But what Donald Trump is unaware of is that he has now made Don Lemon more infamous. That is what's happening right now. And I don't think he realizes it. And I think it's absurd. Donald Trump has already gone after ABC, CBS, CNN, talking about trying to remove Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert and their FCC licenses. They're talking about, by the way, right now with Bad Bunny. They're trying to get Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show investigated by the FCC because of how vulgar it was, even though they don't even understand the language in which they speak. This administration is patently against the First Amendment. They also don't like protesters, by the way, as we just saw. They don't like protesting. They don't like when people are asserting that right. They also don't like the 2A. We found that out, by the way, with Alex Peretti. They don't like the Fourth Amendment right, which is the freaking reasonable search and seizures. They don't like that right. They don't like the Fifth Amendment right. They don't like any of the 14th Amendment right. They want to get rid of that. The list goes on. They're even now invading our elections. This is the most anti-constitutional presidency I have seen in a long, long time. Let's see here. Brandon, get a few more followers and I'll let you up. Not going to let you up with 3 followers. It's an indicator of a troll account. Get some more followers and you can come back in, buddy. All right. Spencer Heikeman said, why are Republicans so bad? Oh, y'all can't see this on Streamlabs. Let's go ahead and put this up. So net job or gain losses by president, it's actually astounding to watch this play out. No, I'm not scared, but I know that you're coming in here to troll, so bye. I don't care. I'm having a little fun with the block button, but that's okay. What's my topic, Chili Billy? My topic right now is kind of right. Oh, sorry. The one we're talking about right now, we're shifting into the economy. We were just talking about Don Lemon. So that's where we were coming out with. Anyways, so net gain, jobs gained or lost by president. We had George H.W. Bush. There was 2.6 million gained. Clinton saw 22 million jobs gained. Bush saw a gain of 1.3. And you on TikTok can't see this graphic, but basically the point of what we're looking at here is that time and time again, Democrats tend to get more jobs than Republicans. And specifically with Trump in his first term, he had a 2.7 million jobs lost. And then if we look at Biden, he had a 16 million job increase, probably due in part to the Infrastructure Act and the American Rescue Plan and a few other bills of that nature. This is one of the reasons why when we talk about Biden's inflation, I say that it is a carryover effect from the Trump administration. It takes a few months to really start to see the effects of, for example, stimulus checks. And I blame Biden as well, by the way. Surprise, surprise, even though I did not vote for Biden. Surprise on that. I actually voted Trump in 2020, and I voted Kamala Harris in 24 in Colin Allred as well as the senator choice. Anyways, move on to the next one. Stephen Chung put out there saying that proof that tariffs are a big boon to the economy, saying tariff revenue soars more than 300% as U.S. awaits Supreme Court decision. This is not as big of a win as he thinks it is. You're telling me now that people who you're telling me that when the government takes in more taxes, right, that somehow means that the revenue is going to, no shit, no duh. No duh. That's exactly how that works. Don Lemon was unfairly fired from CNN. I would probably agree with that. I had to look at that merit, though. It's been a while since I've looked at that. All right, let's go into the next one. Trump argued that other countries are going to pay the brunt of the tariffs, but recent research finds the exact opposite. The cost of Trump's tariffs per household was $1,000 last year, and they're seeing an increase of this year up to $1,300. So the next one we've got here is the golden age. Realtors report a new housing crisis as January home sales tank more than 8%. Are we at the golden age yet? You know, we talked about tariffs. We talked about jobs. The other gentleman that came in here talked about how the manufacturing boom is happening and everything else when that's just not true. We look at the manufacturing, construction sector, anything that are blue collar jobs. Hell, he had to bail out farmers. All of those are going away. They're not there anymore. All right, let's go to the next one. So this is the image of the CPI report that we were talking about earlier. And what you see in this report is a lot of stuff. It talks about all of the items, food at home, food away from home, energy, commodities. This is a breakdown of the CPI. And this is what I was explaining to the previous gentleman who was up here earlier, is that if you look at the CPI numbers, and I know it's cut off for you guys on YouTube, you'll see that it's at a 0.2% rate increase compared from 0.6 in terms of food at home. That is a slowdown of the rate of increase. But what that means is that prices are still increasing. Now, where we have seen a stark decline is gasoline prices. And gasoline prices, and this is, by the way, this is very common in winter. Winter prices tend to go down. They don't really tend to go up. Summertime, when people are doing more traveling and things of that nature, demand is obviously increased, thus prices go up. So this is not totally out of the norm to see this happen. So for December of 25, we saw a decrease of 0.3% and a decrease of 3.2% in January. That means that gasoline prices are going down. But again, I've already explained that this is just normal run-of-the-mill stuff, right? So that's all that is. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring in this bruh guy, Jay the One. Let's go ahead and bring him. Oh, I didn't mean to follow. That is not what I meant to do. There we go. How are you doing, my man? Can you hear me? You there? All right. Guess he didn't mean to join up. All right. Let's keep going. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that the economy is still not doing great. Okay. It's actually doing pretty bad. Next thing we have is CBS News is considering a new round of layoffs. Talk about the economy and how it's doing. CBS is firing people. Amazon is firing people. We can go down the list and list and list. There's numerous people that are laying off workers. So Trump's economy is absolute garbage. Also, we see that long-term unemployment in the U.S. is rising per the Financial Times. Long-term unemployment in the U.S. is rising. And a reporter asked Representative Tom Barrett from Mississippi, "Are you proud of the Trump economy?" And he said, "Not today," and walks away. "Are you proud of the Trump economy?" And he keeps walking away. They don't want to face the unfortunate truth. And Scott Bessent went on to say 2025 was about setting the table. 2026 is going to be a banquet for the American people. See, this is what happens. They talk about the golden age is here, but then they go, well, it's not here yet. It's coming, but it's not here yet. But it's here, but it's not here. You see, that's how crazy this is. Kitty Lou said, FYI, they also released the files about Trump's attempt. People are distracted. I haven't looked into those files. I haven't heard about it, and maybe that's why, because there's other more crazy topics going on. Not saying that isn't an important one, but I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, Katie. This is the one I was talking about earlier. So Texas hasn't run out of crawfish, but we are experiencing a shortage of the workers who harvest them. Policy has led to fewer visas, more fear, and half-full coolers. In other words, in translation, we don't have the immigrant workers to be able to help do our crawfish farming. So when you are sitting there wondering, why is there like such high prices on crawfish? Well, guys, welcome to Econ 101. MAGA is finally starting to learn what Econ 101 is. When you have a labor shortage and you have to either hire more workers or there is not enough supply to go around, you tend to increase those prices. That's how that works. But, I don't expect MAGA to really have that deep of an understanding how that works. All right, let's go on here. Then we have CNN. We had Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly put out that infamous video saying, know the law. Okay, it's okay to disobey unlawful orders given to you. And the judge says that Pete Hegseth is unlawfully retaliating against Senator Mark Kelly over illegal orders video. And you could see where Pete Hegseth responded saying this will be immediately appealed. Sedition is sedition, Captain. And then Mark Kelly responded, quoting the conclusion from the judge in which it said, rather than trying to shrink the First Amendment liberties of retired service members, Secretary Hegseth and his fellow defendants might reflect and be grateful for the wisdom and expertise that retired service members have brought to public discussions and debate on military matters in our nation over the past 250 years. Again, they're going after Pete Hegseth they're going after Mark Kelly because he spoke up against them. This is the problem with this administration. You speak up against them and you're a public figure, Don Lemon, Mark Kelly, Thomas Massie, they're going to come after you. Tell me it's not authoritarian. That's exactly what an authoritarian would do, right? That's exactly what an authoritarian would do. Then we had this. Senator Mark Kelly then went on to CNN saying the old world is gone because Donald Trump blew it up. We had this system of alliances that has served us since World War II. Even if we are able to repair these relationships, it's going to take generations before they feel comfortable. Mark Kelly's right on point. And that point is that going back to what I told the original caller, because of what Donald Trump has done, it's going to take years to fix. He has realigned the world. Canada is going back to negotiate with China. We see where The EU is starting to realign their deals here and there. We have isolated ourselves from the world where we were once the world's economic powerhouse. That doesn't exist anymore. That just doesn't exist anymore, right? All right. Then we have Trump. Trump was asked, have you fired and disciplined? So this is the crazy part. Okay. Now we're getting into some of the other stories here. Donald Trump was asked, have you fired or disciplined the staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas? Provide a little bit of background. I don't think I reported on it. At least I don't think I reported on it at all. For context, Donald Trump put out a video showing the Obama's picture on monkeys. That is a real video. And they tried doing 15 different things. Donald Trump, in one press conference, Donald Trump said it was a staffer. I didn't know about it. Oh, it was about, what was it? The voters. Okay. He tried mixing it up 3 different ways. That's the context. Donald Trump posted a clearly bigoted, prejudicial, racist video about the Obamas. And then he tried to say it was about the Lion King. That was the funniest part about it all. But in this particular question, he was asked about it today. And he said, no, I haven't fired that staffer because that staffer's him. He said that was a video on election fill in the blanks. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Then he goes on to talk about, and this is the one problem I have with Trump, and this is used by Republicans quite a bit, and it's very, very intentional. They spell out Barack Obama's full name. Instead of saying Barack Obama or Obama, like the most 99% of people do, he says Barack Hussein Obama. You'll also sit there, and this is kind of the issue that we saw with Kamala Harris, by the way. They would say Kamala instead of Kamala. It's really easy to pronounce. But they use it in such a manner that we know it's kind of what we consider a dog whistle in a lot of ways, right? That's exactly what this would be used as. And I just wanted to point that out because he talked about it and he, again, enunciated Barack Obama's name the full way. Trump on Iran. So this is going to be a very interesting topic. Essentially, the background on this is that Trump has positioned a lot of our aircraft carriers off the coast of Iran. And he has got one that is positioned right now. And he was asked about this deal. And Trump said, we have to make a deal. Otherwise, it's going to be very traumatic. Trump emphasized that he may very well restart up some of the boom booms going on in Iran. By the way, guys, we're at 5.6 thousand likes. Please tap, 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 tap. I'll even tap, 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 tap. And if you can share it live, it is even better. It helps out the algorithm a lot. And I appreciate every single one of you guys' support. Okay. Then we have a reporter asked Trump, why did you send a second aircraft carrier? And he said, in case we don't make a deal, if we don't have a deal, we'll need it. Guys, we're very close on the brink of all out WAR. It's pretty crazy. Trump then was talking about Greenland is going to want us. We're negotiating right now for Greenland. He brought back up Greenland. Here's the funny thing about Greenland, though, is that a few weeks ago on January 22nd, Donald Trump was asked on Greenland, we're trying to understand what exactly the concept is. Is the U.S. going to take? And Trump said, we'll have something in 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks and still nothing from Trump. We know that Trump made a deal without Denmark present and made a deal with Mark Rutte, who is a Trump sycophant. Mark Rutte is the NATO secretary. So it's important when we talk about this that we understand that no deal was actually made. But Trump now has a check to cash. And that is, hey, you said you got a deal with Greenland. Where is it? And that's the problem with this presidency, is that Trump makes promise after promise after promise after promise. And he's not able to really fulfill a lot of them. Right? And it's upsetting the MAGA base. He talked about the JE stuff, right? And how he's going to release them. He didn't release them. It took an act of Congress to do so. Next thing we got here. Reporter asked, will you be recognizing Delcy Rodriguez's government as the official government of Venezuela? He said, we have done that. We're dealing with them. They've done a great job. The oil is coming out and a lot of money is being paid. This is problematic. David, exactly, Taco. This is problematic because what is happening now is the legal basis by which Donald Trump was able to arrest Maduro was that he was not an official head of state. And their argument is that he was unofficial, thus they were able to take him away. But here's the problem. Maduro's defense team has already raised this and said, look at Trump's own public comments. And this is one of them, where he's saying, will you be recognizing Delcy Rodriguez government as the official government of Venezuela? And he said, we have done that. That would mean that Maduro was an official head of state, meaning it would have been illegal for Donald Trump to take Maduro out of Venezuela. That's supremely problematic. One that I'm sure Maduro's defense team is probably going to end up using. And this is why we talk about when we say Donald Trump should just stop talking. This is one of those reasons. The DOJ is so overworked because of Donald Trump's own comments that there was actually a case where in Minnesota, I believe it was, a DOJ attorney begged the judge to arrest her on contempt for 24 hours just so she could get a break. Not jokingly either, being serious. Now, there's the other aspect of this whole thing, by the way, which is that Trump is saying and admitting it that it was always about oil with Venezuela. It was never about the D-Rugs. Never about that. It was about oil. It's always about oil or mineral rights, one of the two. But that's not all, folks. Because Donald Trump was asked, are you considering land strikes in Mexico, Colombia, or Venezuela? Ready for this? Trump said, don't worry about it. I can sit here and I could talk about the difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. But I think it's safe to say that Kamala Harris would not have done any of this. She wouldn't have imposed tariffs in this manner. She wouldn't have threatened to invade other countries. She would have never removed Maduro from Venezuela. She would have never boomed Iran, to be quite frank. She would have never isolated us with these tariff policies. It's insane to watch this unfold. We got another one here. Trump spoke to some military members, and he said, you want to get in the military, you got to have a little muscle. You got to be a certain type to do well. And we were taking anybody that wanted to get in because we wanted to be politically correct. No, it's based on merit now. By the way, it was always based on merit, right? There were still certain policies and certain regulations they had to follow. It was based on merit. But even if we're going to talk about it, it wasn't. Then what the hell is Pete Hegseth doing as the Secretary of Defense? What qualifications does he have over all of the other qualified individuals? Oh, that's right. He's a Trump sycophant. That's what it is. And then we have Trump speaking to troops in North Carolina, saying he's and attacking the governor and Democratic Senator candidate Roy Cooper as a disaster. Again, more rhetoric from Donald Trump, right? And when he said this, he got no cheers. Well, why might that be? Because guess what? He's speaking to military members who are supposed to be apolitical. So they were quiet. The other funny part of this is that Donald Trump stated, your 401ks are doing very good. I don't have to ask you, is anyone doing poorly with their 401k? But somebody comments saying the U.S. military doesn't offer 401ks to service members. Trump also was asked during a press briefing saying, you said the Iranian nuclear sites have been totally obliterated. What's left to go after? He said, you could get whatever the dust is down there. If we do it, that's really at least our mission, but we'd probably grab whatever is left. So you didn't totally obliterate it. Thus confirming what we all knew. It was a total waste. And then we have Fatex Networks saying Trump was asked about potential regime change And Trump said that it seems like that could be the best thing that could happen. Mind you, Donald Trump has already talked about Cuba's regime change as well. Reporter asked him, what can Iran do to avoid attack? Give us the deal. And this is really great. So let's talk about the SAVE Act, okay? The SAVE Act, I don't have the information pulled up, but essentially would say that the only way that you could get a verified ID is by either your passport or birth certificate or things of that nature. But here's the crazy thing about this. The lowest passport ownership rates in the states would be number one, West Virginia. This is in order. West Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio, and South Dakota, all deep red states. The SAVE Act would disenfranchise Republicans' base. Yet they want to put this in place. Now, it's going to disenfranchise everybody who, let's say, doesn't have their last name on their birth certificate, right? Their new marriage license or whatever it may be, right? Their passport might differ. Here's my issue with this. I have no problem with voter ID if we had free, yes, free IDs issued by the federal government. Now, you might say, well, that's what Social Security cards are. Well, there's still a bit of a payment you got to pay. I know this firsthand, trying to get Social Security cards for my children. So you still have to pay to get that. Some people may not have it. Some people have generational issues, so on and so on and so forth. Free IDs. You send a registration, you get it. That's it. I'd be fine with that. Not this. This is absurd. And then the Trump said, the first time they say I didn't win the popular vote, I did. I won it by a lot. He thinks he won the popular vote the first time. But if you look at the popular vote, he lost 65 million to 62 million. He lost by 3 million votes. Absolutely insane. And Lindsey Graham said the quiet part out loud. He said, right now, it looks like we'll lose the House, maybe keep the Senate. Republicans are going to lose the House. If they're going to lose the House, it's going to be glorious. And they could very well lose the Senate if this keeps up. So I'm really excited to see how this midterm plays out. And I think that Trump realizes that the writing is on the wall because he freaked out about voter ID. He made a long Truth Social post. I'll save y'all the headache of it. Go look at it. In other news, Nancy Mace is introducing a wonderful bill that'll help everyday Americans. It's a wonderful bill, actually. No tax on boats. Whoa, guys, that's huge. That's huge. I know a lot of people that have boats. It's insane. That's insane. Also, Kim Jong-un to officially designate his daughter as the North Korea's next leader. We could see a North Korean female leader before the U.S. has a female leader. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Also, we had RFK Jr. saying, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort blah, blah, blah off of toilet seats. Well, that was funny. And then we had the Trump grift. This is the Trump grift here, where Trump said our country is really blessed to have such a phenomenal first lady, and now she's a movie star. No, she's not. It flopped to the box office. And, of course, the Trump Patriot Edition Bible sold out for $99.99. Somebody spent $100 on a Trump Bible. We're doomed. That's all the news that I have. Guys, if you want to request up, more than welcome to request up. Otherwise, we are at 9:30, which is an hour and a half that we have been live. I intend to go live tomorrow morning. We'll see how that plays out, and we'll do some more debates here. I don't know how that's going to work in Discord. We'll find out. Probably do some debates. I don't know if I can come up with some news. We'll talk about that. But we had some good debates tonight, man. We had a lot of good debates. A lot of people that like this. Hey, we got to 5,000, almost 6,000 likes, because people are tapping and people are doing all that. YouTube, y'all came through too. I think we had quite a bit of likes on that as well. Red State, now you're liking it, man. Now you're liking it. No, I'm kidding. You're good. We had 14 likes on YouTube. We're getting back there, guys. Listen, it's because of your support. You on YouTube, you on TikTok, and everything that you guys do. It's because of you. Was that worm or germ that Junior was afraid of? Yeah. I really appreciate every one of you guys. We're going to continue doing this until we get bigger. We've had big moments. We've had small moments. Right now, we're kind of in a smaller moment, and that's totally okay. But we're going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to try to improving. One of the things I'm going to do is try to upgrade some equipment as we get it. Might bring some live content as it happens with protests or things of that nature. But we got to get there to begin with. So let's continue to grow, continue to like. If you're watching this on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, please make sure you're hitting that like, subscribe, notification bell. Make sure you're following me on all platforms. And other than that, guys, unless anybody comes in at the last minute, and nobody does, this is me signing off. You guys have a great night. I really appreciate it. Every single one of you guys that did tune in, you guys rock. All right, guys, on YouTube, I'm going to do the same thing, guys. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. It was a very, very great show. Thank you so much, Judgment Free Zone. I'm sorry I didn't pay attention to Twitch chat, guys. I really do apologize. But I'll try to do a better job at that with Twitch chat. New guy here, keep up the great work. Don't forget to subscribe. Yes, thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. Who is that? Beer for us. Yes, there it is. Okay, I wanted to acknowledge you. But thank you so much, guys. Y'all take care. I'm out. Later, guys. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. And I might see you guys tomorrow. Just pay